I waited to make a video about the Bud Light fiasco because there's so many angles on it and there's already so many videos about it. And the reason why I'm making this video, this is a special video. I'm going to get into what I think is the true heart. I've done a lot of research for this one. The true heart of the problem and what really is going on. And one thing that might shock you is it has nothing to do with the influencer. Nothing. The influencer was not a factor, actually. I believe the real reason goes into this marketing executive, Alissa Heinerscheid, and the, I guess, narrative or type of individual that we're dealing with in this case. And this is a very personal interview. I'm going to basically break down a 54-minute video. She did an interview prior to this whole fiasco, and this really is a treasure trove. It's a gold mine. I went through the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing. I took notes. I've got a bunch of notes, and I did a lot of research on her background and also on other related topics. So I'm going to be a little bit skipping around because there's just so many points to go at here. Okay, first thing is there's always a challenge, okay, when you're trying to analyze someone you don't know, especially based on, videos online, and it is very difficult. It's difficult to be balanced, okay? And I want, Ronin Man, my main goal is to give you the truth. It's not to give you some kind of narrative that you want to hear. It's just to basically break things down the way things really are, right? So I'm going to do my very best to break this down because this interview is a very personal interview and we're dealing with real people here. I got to remind everybody, we're not dealing with, these are human beings. And I think that's important to know also as we go down this road. But that does not mean that you're not responsible for your actions and that you're above any kind of analysis or criticism. That is definitely not the case. You're human and you have to deal with shit, but you're fair game, especially when you're public. So when you choose to go public, like she did with this interview, you're opening yourself up. Now there's benefit and there's also risk, right? Because you're telling people some of your more intimate details. I don't think she ever kind of expected that this interview would, I would say, become so viral on the internet because many women looked up to her. She had a large following of women who were looking to her, and that caused the original video to go viral. It didn't go viral because of men. It was all women originally. But then after the absolute destruction of the brand Bud Light, people started to think, well, who is this person? Like, what is going on here? And people like me, and I'm kind of a dangerous person to have researching because I am very picky and I go into things. So I'm going to try to give you a bunch of things that I found. The first thing I found was this great short interview. This is a short clip here from the Body Language Ghost. And she goes into an analysis of Alissa's body language. And this is very interesting. And she didn't mention one thing that I want to add is that if you look through the clip, okay, and I watched the entire 54 minutes, including pausing like every 30 seconds because I was writing notes and thinking about things and researching. If you notice, there's something that is and this is body language, I can't believe she missed it because this is actually a great video, is that Alissa often goes into a very despairing look. And this is something that, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a video is worth 1,000 pictures because in the video, you see a lot of facial expressions, and especially when they come up over and over again. One thing you'll notice when you watch this video is that she's always smiling in your face. And people, let's just say this, people that are hiding things, okay, they're hiding their true intentions or their true problems, okay? The only way that you can find what somebody is really thinking is through micro expressions. It really is. And I'm not saying everybody's hiding something. I'm saying when somebody is hiding something, right? Now, they might be hiding for a good reason. I'm just going to say it straight up. I guess she's quite depressed, okay? Because you get these very, very depressed. She talks about darkness. She talks about the difficulty of life. Her own child asked her, she had this mole, and she said, Mommy, is this cancer? And because Alissa survived cancer. Now, I want to get into that one too. That's another one. That's a treasure trove, actually. But the interesting thing is that she mentioned that her child had asked her that, and she realized that she might be talking about too many dark topics to the children that they were not old enough. Well, she didn't say this, but they were not old enough to process. And so now this happens all the time. Parents make mistakes. I'm not saying it's a big deal, but the reflection, this is always the interesting thing about children, is they reflect who you really are. Okay? Now that's what parents don't like. Parents do not like, it is very uncomfortable to have a child reflect back who you are. Because, there's just so many things, like we cover up as humans so much of ourselves. We try to hide, we try to avoid talking about, right? Her child brought up something very interesting, is that she, reading through the tea leaves, and that's what I'm doing through this whole video. I'm not saying that this is completely correct, but I have many, thoughts based on things that I've seen, and based on, their body language is 80% of what you say is your body language. So if you say to somebody, hey, how you doing? But you're holding a gun to their head and you're in a dark alley, which matters more? How are you doing? The words or the gun to the head, right? Body language, what you're doing, your face, your body, your actions. They matter a lot more than words, right? You might smile at your girlfriend and say something that's kind of cheeky, right? And then she knows it's a joke. And then they laugh, right? Because she understands the words were not the meaning, right? Because body language is so important. So this body language analysis is really great. You should watch this one. It's just 4 minutes long. But like I said, I wanted to add that I think she's extremely depressed. That's just my take. This is a lost woman. And we're going to get more into this. Why I think other clues that I got, that she's a lost individual, holding on to a fragile belief system. Okay. And so I just want to bring you a little bit of the wisdom from this video, this short video on body language, is that she points out that when Alissa talks about herself, she becomes very small. She looks to the side, her hands come in, her shoulders go down, and she talks about herself. And then when she talks about her coach, when she talks about other women, she gets up on her legs. She puts her legs underneath her. She has this confident thing. Her hands are no longer closed towards her. They're open and they're big and the gestures are large. When she's talking about the person that she is following, okay, the person that she's emulating, they call it a coach, right? But it's really, if you look at her life, coaches can be, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people who has had their lives, their family torn apart by psychologists. And the reason is because a psychologist, you go to a psychologist when you're depressed, right? And they can really change your entire viewpoint on your friends. I know many, many people in my real life where they went to a psychologist and the psychologist told them, I'm putting the coach in the same category. There probably is a psychologist also. That's not mentioned, of course. But let's just put the coach. The coach is someone telling her the meaning of her life. She's telling them, oh, I feel this. And the coach says, well, it's the same role. Okay. It's not a licensed psychologist. It's a coach, right? A life coach. Life coach can be something that helps you, and it can also be something that really, truly, 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 truly leads you into a world of hell. And what I mean by that is, like my friend, he was told by his psychologist that his friends were not good influences on him. They were using him, and they were toxic and negative influences on his life. And he actually cut all his friends out, like years ago. And the guy has become a total hermit. It's like, and I've seen this in my own family. I've seen people go to psychologists, and they just entirely change. Like the next minute, they're just spouting off the words of the psychologist. They're like, well, you're a negative influence, or telling people that. I mean, these are people that raised them and loved them. Like people they've had as friends their entire life. People supported them. People protected them. I mean, like the most important, like the definition of important people, right? What we consider to be deep connections, right? They're like, no, those deep connections are all bad for you. You need to break away from all those old things. And along with that, break away from all the old ideas. Perfect situation for a life coach or a psychologist. The reason is because now you have a rudderless individual who has cut off all support in his life or her life. And it's just, what do I do now? I cut him off. Oh, it was painful. Oh, let's talk about that. Oh, they said this. Oh, that's proof that you were right in cutting them off. Because it goes from the psychologist telling you something to do to your choices, right? So it shifts, right? They told you to do it, but now it's like the psychologist, how did they respond to your action, right? They're putting it on you now because you did it, right? Now, that's, under the influence of the guidance, right? Strangely enough, right? We're going to talk a lot about that. And the mind memes and the narratives that are going around. It's all in this video. I really recommend listening to this one to the very end. So let's go to the next one here. Again, like I said, excuse me for skipping around. There's so much in this video. I just can't even put it into a narrative for you. I got to just kind of give you the bits and pieces. Okay. She was talking about her life coach. So she has a life coach, right? And she said, she also let out of the bag that she made her company pay for it. I thought that was interesting. And then she switched to, I invest in myself. And she said, and the company can pay for it. I invest. You invest means you pay. Okay, you invest. Investment, right, is your investing, right? Not your company. It's like so many times, Alissa, when she's talking, she is playing these games, and you have to watch every single sentence in order to catch them. Because it's like invest, that means basically that you're investing, right? And then she says that, and then a minute later, she's like, and I found out I can get my company to pay for it, right? It's like, well, then you got your company to invest in you, right? You got added benefit other executives didn't get. So not only are you the first woman leading the largest beer brand in the world, but you're getting special privileges. And there's a lot of them that she lets out of the bag in this video. It's fucking great. So she said her life coach, had two struggles, right? Let me get to what was the two struggles? Let me get to, where is the thing here? She struggled with a mother who had mental illness and inverted, inveterate, I can't even racism. Yeah, so I didn't even know the word. I had to go look it up. And basically it means something that's intractable, something that it's just a habit. It's impossible to extract. So racism. So her coach, the person that she is watching, she is following, her mother struggled with mental illness. Mental illness is a genetic It runs in families just like other genes. It's very common, very, very common to pass on mental illness. And we're talking about the 60s. Back then, when something was called mental illness, it meant mental illness. It didn't mean like you're trying to quit sugar or something, right? You know what I mean? Like now it's like mental illness. What does that mean? But back then it was like serious, right? So in invertebrate race. So that's another theme is you really need to read between the lines to even try to understand these fucking people. Because there's so many lies, right? So here we go. What was I? Okay, I'm going to take that one out. Okay, so she said in her interview that she chose her team. She said a couple things that were very, very interesting. She said, I often find myself in boardrooms with mainly men, like that's a bad thing, and that she has difficulty having confidence around men, right? And that she chose her team. So basically, she's kind of hinting. This is the interesting thing. You can watch the whole interview if you want to, second guess any of this. She's hinting that men, that it shouldn't be all men, right, in this boardroom, or mostly men, shouldn't be, and B, that there's some kind of a negative connotation there for sure about the men. And so she said she likes to, but then she said that they listen to me and they respect me. So she basically gives it away that she doesn't listen or respect the men. She didn't mention any of their names. She didn't say, hey, I really respect so-and-so, the vice president of this, the way he has done this. No mention, just men, quote unquote. General, we didn't know anything about their names. She mentions in this interview many, many women, and she tells you all kinds of details about their life. She doesn't mention any men except for her husband, and that's an interesting one too. But she was, basically what she says, she hints that it was she doesn't hint, she says it was such a difficult struggle to lead as a woman and the first vice president of marketing in Budweiser's history. And then she says the next fucking sentence, basically that the men let her do whatever she wants. She gets to pick her own team. She gets to pick she did the Super Bowl. She goes onto the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. She's in the center of the picture. I don't know if I think I have that picture for you, but she's getting all kinds of respect. They are essentially, what she's saying is they're trusting her to turn this brand around. So she's given all kinds of freedom, all kinds of budgets, and all kinds of trust. And then what does she do with that? Okay, here's her team. Okay, now, before I go into the details of this team, I want to talk about the demographics of beer. Okay, so women buy about 80% of consumer goods. Okay, so there's one very large exception, and that is beer. Beer is, you can look at the different brands, Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Lite, 60% male purchasers. Okay, now I would go so far as to say that this number is very, very, is not accurate. Okay, because women are entrusted. If you ever go to a company, and I've been to a lot of companies, and you meet the purchasing director, I have never met personally a purchasing director who's male. It is always female. And why is that? Why is the female? Because women like to buy things, basically, And so you see a lot of female, right, buyers. So any kind of a restaurant or, it's raining like crazy. Awesome. I'm just going out to, oh man, this is like a full fucking downpour. Awesome. This is Thailand, eh? It's monsoon season's coming. Oh, that's funny. Right in the middle. I was going to go to get some food, but I stayed around to do this, and I'm glad I did, actually. But okay, so beer, 60% can be tracked to men. But we know that a lot of times in families, women do the shopping. They buy the beer, the man wants Bud Light, and the woman buys the beer. So I would guess that we're dealing about 80% and maybe even higher, that the customers are male. Okay. Now, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Does that tell you that a room full of men is some kind of, which she hints at, some kind of old thing that doesn't match the company? That it's some kind of anomaly? It's some kind of, again, systematic racism type thing, right? It's entrenched. There's a problem. All these men in the boardroom. She's like complaining about that. She's the fucking VP of marketing, right? And she's like criticizing the company, like right and left, straight off the bat in this interview. If you listen closely, I would have fired her after this interview. And I'll tell you why later. But it's very interesting that 60% are known to be men, and it's probably a lot more. Now, here we have 19 people in her marketing team. This is her marketing team. Okay, now, again, she was given the right to choose this marketing team. Okay? She chose these people. Now, how many guys are here? Let's look at there on the right. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay. And the rest are female. Very interesting. So that comes out to about 19%. No, 4. Sorry, 4. 4 guys out of 4 out of 19 comes to 21%. What am I saying? 21%. So in a business where the customer is, I would say, upwards of 80, 90% male. So the customer, just like Revlon, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's like these are predominantly female customers, right? This business is predominantly male, and she chose basically young females, okay? These are young. These are all very young. And she says in the interview, she says, I chose people that nobody believed in, that nobody trusted. So basically, she went through Budweiser's, employees, and she picked women to be on her team. And I've seen this so many times. Every time there's a woman executive, they will not fucking hire men, but they won't say it, and they'll never get sued. I actually know a VP of a large Hollywood conglomerate. I know her very, very well, okay? And she told me in private, she said, I will never hire a man. Never. And there was no logic to it. He was just like, I won't do it. And I was like, holy shit. I was like thinking, like, isn't that illegal? And she was like, she was proud of it. Because when you get away with stuff, you become this overconfident tyrant, really. And that's what's happening. She's getting power, and she basically tells the guys, hey, look, don't worry about it. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. I'm the future of this brand. I'm hiring my own team. We're going to bring in all these young female beer drinkers. Now, I would question how many of these women are actually beer drinkers. You know what I mean? Like, I would really, the guy looks like in the back, he looks like he's going to fucking start drinking that right now. The other ones, they're kind of holding it out. The one guy on the left, he looks like more female than male. But the guy in the back is like, fuck, I wish I could drink this right now. The women are all holding it like it's some kind of here's this weird, it's like holding this carburetor or something, right? It's like the woman in the front, in the middle, she looks like she's going to dust that beer. But so there's maybe your 10% or 5%, right? She looks like, yeah, I'd fucking drink this, no problem. So, there are people that will, right? Okay, so, but interesting. So she hires all women, okay, despite the fact that the brand is all men. Okay, so here we're talking all the media, they can't get them over themselves. It's so great, and it's like this, first woman to lead Bud Light. Oh, what a wonderful thing. There's 21%. Okay, now there she is in front of the New York Stock Exchange. Now, if you notice that these are executives, this is not a marketing team. This is like the executives, the top executives, right, at Bud Light. And very interesting. I can't say for sure, but Usually that's the way companies do it. Like for a promotion at the New York Stock Exchange, they think very clearly about the stuff. Now, I think she chose those 3 women around her and the 2 on the left. But the other guys, like the guy next to her on the right, there's no doubt that guy is like one of the executives, right? Those 3 guys on the right. I'm guessing those are the 3 executives that would have been leading it before. But now it's all women, basically. She's in the middle, right? Awkwardly holding that beer. And there's some young guy, the guy on the left, again, I don't know how manly this guy is, but, and I don't know how powerful he is, but he might fit the narrative, right? Anyway, he might be a good yes man there for her, right? So you're getting basically women taking over, right? Taking over a men's brand, right? Now, here's a clip I took through the interview. And many times she had this look on her face. And this is not particularly to make her look bad. It's just, guys, it's real life. We're talking billions of dollars here. You need to, if this chick lost billions of dollars for you, you need to think, what did we miss here? What was the problem? The problem was not this influencer. The problem was the person that you trusted, to lead your marketing team. This person had problems. This is my basic belief. Now, of course, again, I am conjecture. This is conjecture. I'm looking at everything that I can find. I'm trying to give you an honest, overall balanced view. But we know that billions of dollars was lost. And maybe, we don't know the future, but this thing looks like it might destroy the brand. This is looking pretty serious now. The president of AB just recently started saying, hey, you guys that are, protesting, you guys are going to make people lose jobs. You're going to make, good people lose their livelihood. He's basically letting the cat out of the bag because this shit's really hurting, right? So I think it deserves a deep analysis of how this happened, right? And who this person is. Because people present what they want to present to you. But when somebody constantly goes into this depressed look, and then they talk about their coaches, they've adopted their values, and then all of a sudden they're you got to think, who is this fucking person? Who is this? Okay, now, I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm kind of going link by link here. I looked into Alissa's background. She had 3 children by 3 surrogate mothers. Very interesting, right? Now, she had cancer, okay? And what I'm doing here is talking about a web of lies. Or whether they're lies or deliberate kind of falsehoods or just leaving the pieces there so that you don't figure it out. There's many ways to deceive, right? You can say a particular lie, or you can lead people to their own conclusions based on, something that is not exactly accurate. So anyway, she's a marketing person. Okay, that part is real. And marketing people, one dangerous thing, American marketing people are so good, it's scary. They really are. I really that's how they sell all these terrible foods and the drugs. One thing that scares me is how good Americans are at marketing. It's one thing Americans are really, truly superior. Americans are really great at marketing. And that starts out as a good thing because, you need to promote something that's worth promoting. The problem is it gets out of hand. And it gets to the point where I think, I'm so tired. Okay, this is a side note, but there's narratives out there that are so threadbare and tired. One of them is, I am a victim, right? We talk about that a lot. The victim. Everybody's a victim. But when you go into why they're a victim, in the old days, the victim was a real victim, right? Now that marketing people and people that are marketing their services and marketing their viability as a mate, and people realize, if I'm a victim, that's a powerful narrative. And so now all of a sudden, victim, you no longer can just take things for granted. Okay, they're a victim. The old days, you know, there's a victim. You knew it was something serious, right? You knew. Now you got to find out, wait. What is this thing they're a victim of? Like, what is the real nuts and bolts of actually what happened to this person? Because so many people recognize these powerful narratives. And then they recognize, too, that all they have to do is hint at things without going into details, and you will believe something, and they never have to prove it. They never have to get into the nitty-gritty details. But they influence you, and you think, oh my gosh. So one thing I noticed with her was they kept talking about cancer survivor. And I'm like, ooh, that's a serious one. Okay, she's pretty young, cancer survivor. So I tried to find out what kind of cancer does she have. And it wasn't actually that easy to find. There wasn't really a lot of detail. Why is that? Well, cancer survivor is, you know, that is a very powerful narrative. You know, that you know, cancer survivor. What do you think of when you think of cancer survivor? My first thought was ovarian cancer or breast cancer. Two of the more serious, cancers, right? Well, it wasn't that. It was a skin cancer. It was a type of skin cancer. Okay, so she had a melanoma. Now, I had skin cancer. Okay, you guys know last year, right? A year ago this week, I had my skin cancer surgery. Now, how often do I talk about being a cancer survivor? Never. Because, although at first I was quite shocked and scared, I was very worried before I knew, more about it. But it's when I realized, okay, this is, basically just got to have surgery to take this thing off, and basically I'm good. Now, I had a squamous cell, and she had a melanoma. So a melanoma is a more serious type of skin cancer. Okay, that is true. But still, melanoma, unless it has gone to it's reached your organs or something. The problem with melanoma is, again, you have to get into details because there's so many people that are lying to you now. Okay, so you have to really think. That's what I do here for, basically for these images. I really think and I research, like, okay, melanoma sounds really dangerous. And it is. Melanoma is extremely dangerous. If you don't catch melanoma, it will kill you. Okay, there's no doubt about that. But, and this is the big but, if you catch it early, very often with melanoma, is that you catch it early, get it taken out, stage 1, and you're good. It can come back, cancer can return, but often if you get it early enough, with melanoma, and even these days because of basically guys, men, scientists researching, and medical people, they basically, cancer these days, it ain't what it used to be. And I think there's going to be probably a vaccine for cancer in the near future. I just, from what I've read, I think they're on their way. They put so much money into it. There's so many smart guys thinking about this that it's a matter of time. Just like they kind of solved many other diseases in the past. I think cancer is one of these ones. They're getting close to figuring this one out once and for all. In fact, there might even be something like a kind of cure-all that's coming. I've definitely read. I've got hints of that. Well, it hasn't happened yet. Not saying it will. I'm just saying that it's very likely because whenever you get so many people focused, things get. But don't be manipulated. If somebody had melanoma and that spread to their internal organs and they survived, that's pretty fucking serious. That's a fucking cancer survivor. That's a serious thing because the survivor to me means the level of seriousness. There's a direct connection. You're a survivor. You're not a survivor from a toe jam, okay? You're a survivor, right, from a car crash where you were cut out by the jaws of life, right? Or a melanoma that spread to your whatever. I don't want to say any names, but one of the Ronin guys had a much more serious cancer, much more serious. And he survived it, and we all supported him. I should say his name, yeah, Time. He is a cancer survivor, and it's amazing, actually. And I was staying at his house when this whole thing went down. And it was like, during the New York Summit, everybody was like, we were like so supportive. It all came together perfectly. Like the summit came around at the time that his cancer, and everybody was so supportive, and he was able to share. We were right there. It was like a dream. It was like one of these things where it's like fucking, sometimes you just wonder if things are meant to be. Like, he was just perfect, and he overcame it. He got it done, and I was there pushing him to do it very quickly because of my knowledge of cancer. And I hope, that I had some positive influence. And I'm very, very glad that old Chime Time San came through this thing. He's a great guy, and he's a fucking survivor, no doubt about it. Now, he might not like that term because he might say, hey, that's nothing. I survived this or that, because I know his life has been filled with challenges. So he might say, not this one. He might say, Ronin, this one is kind of like, I got over it. Because it depends, right? It depends on your level of what you've been through, right? How difficult your life has been, right? So he might have something else that he considers that, or he might say, fuck it, I'm going to have something bigger, right? He might not take the mantle of survivor, even no matter what. Because he might say, you know what? Fuck that. You know what I mean? Like, my life is fine. I don't want the fucking label, right? There's many different, responses to these different inputs, right? We have choices. You don't have to be a fucking survivor, right? It's not like someone can call you a survivor and you can say, no, I'm not. I'm fucking fine. You know what I mean? You choose. These narratives are put on you, right? And also, you have the right to think what you think. So I could think something about him, and he could think something different about himself. Totally fine. And same thing with other people. They might think of me as having gone through something, and I might have the attitude of, like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Because you have a right to think. What a concept. And you shouldn't be destroyed for your thoughts. It's based on your own experience. And also, sometimes people from the outside can see, you know what I mean? They can see it differently, right? Your parents, they might have a different view, right? But don't take on labels that people give you just because, now I can take on that label, right? It's like the guys who find out they're like 2% black and they start talking like they're in the ghetto, right? There's guys like that because they realize, I can use this to my advantage. People do that. You might be shocked to know that human beings can do this kind of thing, right? But you as a guy listening to Ronin Man, you want to always think, wait a second. I can now legally, legally, right? I can now use this term. I can be a victim. I can be a survivor. But you think, well, wait a second. How do I feel about that? Right? Don't just take on these things because they're going to help you get ahead. This shit is what forms you as a man. Your choices on this kind of stuff. It's what really forms you. Be careful. Don't let people put these things on you. Think deeply, right? But I wanted to get into this one. Okay, so I said, well, wait a second. Okay, I'll go back off the cancer for a second. Surrogacy. She had surrogacy for 3 kids, right? Now, that's interesting, right? Let's see, where was the... Here we go. Talking about melanoma. Is it safe to get pregnant after melanoma? I looked it up. Receiving treatment for early stage melanoma. Now, we don't know if it's early stage or not, but she was 24, 25. All signs point to early, like basically, because she didn't talk about any complications. She had melanoma. She found it. She was young. She got rid of it, right? Does not affect your chances of getting pregnant after the treatment is complete, nor would it pose risks to you or the baby after you conceive. So having melanoma, her marketing narrative is, I am a cancer survivor, and then she says it without saying it, I had 3 surrogates. Now, that might be the case, okay? I could be completely wrong on this one. I could be totally wrong, and I don't, and if I am wrong, then I'm wrong, right? There's no doubt about it. And maybe she had more serious, and that's why she had the surrogates. But the dark side of me, okay? The dark The side of me that kind of questions things, right? I think, well, wait a second. Did she really, like, why? And people do this. They lie about the most intimate things. She had 3 surrogates. 3 fucking surrogates. Now, think about this, just on the side note. If you thought the cancer was going to come back, why would you, as a mother, have 3 kids? Because the kids are probably going to grow up without a mother. Like, if you thought cancer was going to come back, okay, you would probably say, you know what? I'm not going to have any kids because I want to be there to raise them. Like, I don't want to leave my kids without a mother and the legacy, you know? That's what people do, by the way. That's what adults do. They make tough choices. But if I was right originally, which is she had stage 1, they took care of it, it wasn't really a factor. Then, what are we getting into here? Ooh, this is dark shit. Okay, this is dark shit. Okay, what I'm going to tell you now. She's not saying it directly, but if you read her narrative, her marketing of herself, cancer survivor, 3 surrogate kids, you put the pieces together, you're like, oh, naturally, cancer survivor means that you weren't strong enough to have kids, but she was very young, okay? And here's, Skin Cancer Foundation, Google #1 results is that if you get treated for melanoma, there is no effect. Stage 1, there's no effect. You can have kids, you can be pregnant. So what if she was lying? I'm just saying, what if? She might not be. She might be telling the truth. But what if she was so scummy that she would lie about cancer and kids? And why would she do that? Why would people? What is the reason for people to? Why is surrogacy rising? What is the reason? Now, we know that this woman is very ambitious, okay? I mean, there's no doubt about it. And she talks about it over and over in their interview. She's like, basically, she wants to change the world. She wants to take on the hard task. She wants to, this and that. She is a type A personality in business. There's no doubt about it. Okay, now why would a woman have a surrogacy who was a type A? Having a child doesn't fit into these women's schedule. Is this the future of surrogacy? U.S. doctors have seen an increase in patients avoiding pregnancy or time off by paying someone else to carry their baby, with no medical need to do so. When was this article? 2019. So it's a new thing now. So basically, read between the lines, women that are type A workers don't want to even take the time off to have a kid. They say, hey, I can pay another woman to do it, plus my boobs won't change, right? Still have hot boobs, and I don't have to get any kind of complications from having kids, don't have to have any varicose veins, I can still be sexy, my pussy can still be tight, right? I had a woman tell me directly, I had a, what do you call it? Not surrogate. What is that called? I can't even think of the name right now. But when the baby is, there's surgery and they take the baby out instead of going through the box, it's basically, she said, like, my box is still tight. So basically she's saying she did it because she wanted to keep her box tight, right? This is the type of people we have these days. I mean, there's like such a, it's so self-centered. It's so fucking, my mom had really bad varicose veins her entire life because she had 3 kids. And she just was the unlucky type who got varicose veins. And there was something, they're pretty bad, like if you see them. But I always respected her for that. I always thought, you know what? My mom was a real fucking mom. My mom was all in. And it wasn't just the willingness to let her body be affected by pregnancy. My mom was like that with everything, And I've talked about my mom before. My mom is a big part of my life, And people often say, oh, MGTOW guys, they hate women. It's such bullshit. It's such a lie. It's such a lie. My mom has taught me so many things. I could do a whole episode of my mom. But she was all in. She was not the type. And I can tell you this, my mom hates these type of women. There's definitely some truth about changing the body. The Pacific Fertility Center in Los Angeles, Wilshire Boulevard, Hollywood, right? Blah, blah, blah. Thousands of privileged people, Hollywood stars, gay, straight, young, and old. But surrogates, you can only do it. California, right? California. Their ability to, oh God, this is classic. So basically, is that women are now, and I can't say this is Alissa because that's there's nothing I can say that's definitive on this one. But I can say where there's smoke, right? The smoke is using cancer, using melanoma as a reason not to have a kid, when Google #1 result is that melanoma doesn't really affect having a kid. Stage 1, right? It's so sick. It's like people hide their biggest, people hide their darkest things under the most pretty, like instead of just saying the truth, hey, I wanted to have a tight box. I didn't want to have, loose titties like the old days. I didn't want to take time off. I'm a fucking type A. Take responsibility. I had surrogates. It's legal. Nothing you can say about it. I would respect a person who said that because they're just being honest. They're like, look, I'm selfish. I don't want to lose my body. Other women, they're willing to have other guys' kids, other people's kids, and get paid. So why shouldn't I take advantage of that? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. And I would agree. But I'll tell you what there's definitely something wrong with, is using your kids as an excuse for your own vanity and exaggerating your own tragedy and using that in a marketing ploy for yourself as a victim, right? As a survivor. It's like such a perfect narrative. Now, maybe, like I said, maybe it's wrong. Maybe there was stage 2. Maybe she had a doctor who made a mistake and told her that it would affect her pregnancy. Who knows? Anything's possible. But, hey, what is most likely here? Most likely, right? Oh, classic. Okay. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to go into that one. Okay. Okay. So here's an article about her. She's one of the last people I picture when I think of beer. Well, isn't that interesting? This is an article praising Alissa, right? She's one of the last people. You know why it's one of the last people you think of beer? Is because women don't buy beer. That's why you don't put a woman in charge of your beer company, you fucking morons. Okay? You don't put, it's so dumb that she probably doesn't even drink beer. She didn't say it, but I don't see her like, shotgun and cold ones like they're saying here, right? So she's excelled in this, kind of that. She was living her dream life. Oh gosh. Yeah, oh yeah. She was living her dream. Isn't this what she really wanted all along? Her dream life. She's been promoted. She moved to Manhattan from wherever it was. She said, I think Tennessee, somewhere in the South. Her mother was a Southern Belle type. But she divorced herself from that, and she talks about that. And I'll talk about that. She had promoted. She was living her dream life. And isn't that what this sounds like she's all about? Her. She'd been promoted to to consumer marketing. Read that again. Head of direct to consumer marketing. Now, who are the consumers of beer? We know it's almost all men. Now, if she was hot, if she was super hot, then maybe, men like hot women. So that could work, right? Everybody likes to watch a hot girl, right? But this woman is definitely, that's not the case, And she basically hates men, basically. That's what we're going to find out later. A position she designed herself. So she not only got the dream life, she was a woman in charge of a man's business. She was allowed to design her own position. She was given all the artistic freedom and financial. She was given a coach they paid for. She was given the right to choose an all-female, young female team who basically are just going to be her sycophants, right? You give young people a position that's 10 times higher than they would have had, they're going to fucking do what you want. Everybody knows that. And you're going to be queen fucking bee here, right? Queen fucking bee. And guess what? Those women are going to go to bat for you. When you're creating like a military type of battalion, it's like you get a bunch of young people that are in debt to you. Oh, man. Especially when there's this kind of we are women type thing, right? Oh, man. Okay. She hired a team of employees. A team of employees? What are you talking about? Like, how fucking dishonest is that? She hired all women in a business that is focused on all men. Okay, great. Oh, fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to go through some of my notes. Some of these I talked about. Oh, by the way, here's what she looks like in real life. That's her getting a Starbucks. And again, she promotes herself as this here, right? This is a very likable look. This is very close. Okay, this picture here, this video, was the same time as this. Okay, so and I've seen this so many times. Both these girls are Southern belles, or not anymore, but they were raised in the South, and she talks about turning her back on the way she was raised, on being feminine. I'll get into the exact details. But basically, one of the things I see with Southern belles that's so incredibly dangerous, and I've even fallen for it myself, is they are raised in the South to be women, to be female. And it's very, very enticing. There's something, I have a weakness for Southern belle chicks with the accent, and I have a fucking weakness for these girls. There's no doubt about it. I love country girls in general, but the Southern belles, I'm not into white chicks, but Southern belles, I can just drill them endlessly. I totally can dig on them, right? They're dangerous for me, to be honest. Okay, but one thing I noticed about them, especially in Las Vegas, is that Southern belles are the ultimate in dangerous women in Vegas. The reason is because a California girl was not raised to be feminine, okay? She doesn't really know how to do it. She has to learn. And men who have evolved, have very, very minute, very, very intricate, very, very excellent ability to decipher a woman's character. Just like women have the same level for deciphering a man. We know if it's real. We know if it's fake. So guess who works as bottle girls in Vegas? Southern girls. Because here's the thing. You can be raised one way, and you can put on this, oh, I came here from the South. We used to catch, the snakes, and we would ride the alligators, and she'll tell you true stories about her past. But what she won't tell you is what Alissa basically says over and over, is that she has totally discarded her past belief system and taken on her coaches. She just doesn't even associate herself with being a Southern belle. She doesn't like Southern belles, honestly. She doesn't like the way they bring people together. She talks about it. I think in my notes I'll get some more details. But at the same time, this is the game. This is the fucking dangerous game. She knows how to dress. She knows how to do her hair. She knows what kind of earrings to wear to be a Southern Belle. Now, the girl on the left, she's a Southern Belle who's been in New York probably longer from a younger age because she doesn't look so much like a Southern Belle. She's pretty sophisticated looking, right? But this girl on the right, she does it perfect. She's like, I'm just a girl from the countryside. I don't know nothing about fixing cars. You know, if you could help me, or you could kind of help me with my flat tire here, I'd be so grateful. You're so handsome and strong. How did you get so strong? You know, oh, I love back home. I like cooking with my mom. You know, they can put it on when they need to, man, because it is kind of them. They got a split personality, these Southern Belles. When they go to Vegas, when they go to New York, when they go to LA. And I'm sure you'll see this in actresses too, is the Southern Belle background is gold for women. Because even if they discard it and totally turn their back on it, they can turn it on whenever they want. And in this interview, you can see she is turning it on hard. It reminds me of Elizabeth Holmes in her when she was doing in the court case. The way she was dressing was so different than the way she dressed in real life. But again, this is what we're dealing with here, is a cold, type A, New York, man-hating bitch. Okay, that's what we're dealing with in real life. But whenever it is necessary, you got the soft kitty cat, Southern Belle shucks. I can't believe I'm here. Sometimes I look around and I just can't believe it. You know, you don't crawl to the top without stabbing some people on the way up. She took someone else's job they were going to get. She ruined the company. She destroyed capital in excess of $4 billion. And it could end up being a lot more than that. Because we don't know in the future what's going to happen. Sales are still dropping. The stock hasn't really reacted yet, in my opinion. Like the real numbers, takes time, take a few more quarters before you're going to start to see some real changes there as far as stock price goes and company valuation. And basically the aftermath of this whole thing. But don't be fooled here, guys. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. Okay. Now, let's see. I'm going to go through. Let me skip around here. So she's married and she talks about her husband a lot. And it sounds like he does a lot of the parenting, to be honest. She's running very similar to Sheryl Sandberg at Facebook. Sheryl Sandberg, while she was working at Facebook, she's basically leaving. Sheryl was leaving work at 5:30 p.m. She makes $30 million. She got tons of stock options. So 30 million is pennies compared to what she made in stock options. And she basically doesn't work like men do in their position. She works in a tech industry. I made a whole video about this. That is like a grind to the bone type industry. But she would just take off. She was a mother. She was given privilege to basically leave work at 5:30. And even other women in Facebook were like, what the fuck, bitch? You know, why do you get to go home at 5:30, right? But she basically, this is what's happening now. Women are not taking men's jobs. They're creating their own job. And she says it. I created my own position. They're given so much respect. Men are standing down, letting them do whatever they want, hire whoever they want. They're just like, okay. And this is partly how corporations work, is that you do your job, I'll do mine, right? And that's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, you're the future. All right, do what you do. Here's the bonus. Here's the money. Here's the fucking incentive. Whatever you want to do, you fucking do it, but you're going to be judged on your numbers, right? And the numbers are not good. The numbers are not good. But this one here, Sheryl Sandberg, is very interesting because she quit at the time of the data breach. Remember the big data scandal at Facebook? And she went incognito. She didn't even stand up. Mark Zuckerberg had to answer the questions that she was supposed to answer. Her position was directly responsible for that, taking care of that fire, that nightmare. And she voided the whole thing. Everybody praised her on the way up, but when she was missing in action during the company's biggest scandal, and it was, I forgot the name of the scandal, but it was the biggest scandal in Facebook's history. Sheryl Sandberg, who bragged about leaving the job at 5:30, okay, was nowhere to be found. She never took responsibility. She was, basically what we're saying here is companies blindly hiring people that are not qualified, giving them way too much autonomy, way too much money, and they are destroying companies. I don't know how long this needs to go on. I don't know how many companies. Equifax, same thing. The security, the head of security was bragging in an interview, and I did a whole video about it, about how you don't even need a security background to work in security. She literally was bragging that you can just learn on the job. These are her words. This is the type of, and not only that, they're getting special. They're creating their own position, hiring their own team. They're totally given autonomy. And then they're destroying things. And then the corporations are like, oh, that was a mistake. That was a huge mistake. But they're not understanding, like, we need to go back to corporate governance. We need to go back to taking responsibility. The company's responsible, ultimately. She's responsible for what happened under her watch. But the bottom line is the CEO. The CEO of InBev, of Budweiser, they got to wake up, find out how many fucking people are working in their company that aren't qualified, that aren't there. How many people are leaving at 5:30? How many people are creating? I mean, it is insane. The first thing is, if I was him, I think the first thing he has to look at is the women that were hired under the gender, ratio type of stuff. Like, come on, man. Do you want to destroy the company, or do you want to get fucking real? Men drink beers. This company is men buying beer. Men have a certain sense of humor. They have a certain way of looking at life. We look at life differently than women. Men and women are not the same. Okay? A woman doesn't know how a man thinks. A man knows. A woman knows how a woman thinks. Welcome to the real fucking world. Okay, let's go here. Let me go through my notes here. Okay, so I'm just going to read my notes here. You were the first woman to lead this brand in 40-year history, the largest beer brand in the world. What do you want your legacy, your impact to be? I mistyped that, yeah. Your impact. So this is the question she was asked in the interview. And here's the interesting thing. She didn't even answer the question. You're the first woman to lead this brand. She smiled, and she was all smiles for that part. The largest beer brand in the world. She almost exploded with happiness at that point. Because she's like, I'm in charge of this big, big brand. I'm the first. I'm the queen. I'm here. I'm here. But the question was not that. That was a lead up to the question. What do you want your legacy, your impact to be? Right? Your job is the head of marketing for a brand of beer. Okay? Not for your self-esteem, for a brand of beer. What do you want your legacy to be? Okay, so I kind of like typed this up quickly, but basically this is what she said. It's humbling. I'm incredibly grateful. It's helpful just to recognize this is where I dreamed of being. Right? Being happy in the here and now as a woman in a male-dominated industry. It's not a male-dominated industry. It is a customer with a male user base, right? It's not a male-dominated. That would be male-dominated means it's not supposed to be. So like, you know what I mean? Like you got like in the old days, I'm sure there was like women's makeup companies that was all men, and bra companies. I mean, let's face it, women know that shit better than men, right? So there was things that were changed for the better, right? But this is not a male dominated. This is a beer company, right? Men drink beer. It's been a long road, tense and hard. Ooh, long road. She's in her 30s, but brought clarity and perspective. The most important thing about this job is helping. I've had mistake other women along the way. Okay, now she was asked, what is your legacy? What do you want your impact to be? Okay, now as the head of marketing, it wasn't her private life and what do you want to do with your kids? No, what does she want to do? What is her goal? Her goal is to bring other women along the way. It doesn't mean anything unless I'm positively impacting other quote unquote people. Now she says people here, but she quickly goes back to women. And she hires, you can see, very few men, and maybe even none. Those might have been leftovers. It might have been necessary. She didn't want to have the optics of an all-female team, right? Let's see here. My people decision on teams. I bet on people no one else believed in. Well, she bet on people, the wrong people, okay? Kind and good. So she bet on people that were kind and good. Now, what is kind and good? Kind and good, women are sugar and spice, everything nice. Men are, puppy dog tails and this and that, right? So kind and nice. If you start talking about kind and fucking nice, you're basically talking about women, right? Again, let's see. I try to bring the female representation to this role. So I wanted to try to move the needle to bring other people along with me. So what she's doing is her legacy has nothing to do with selling beer, has nothing to do with being the number one beer company in the world, has nothing to do with sales, has nothing to do with making the customers happy, has nothing to do with creating a strong team, making the company new inroads into beer markets. No, it was about hiring women and bringing them along. So basically, I'm in, and I'm going to bring you all. I'm going to bring all these women along, and you can see it in the picture. She's just bringing these women along, and it's like they're just lucky to be there. The girl in the front on the right, she looks like a college student. It's like these are not the same faces we saw at the head of the New York Stock Exchange, right? Okay. So basically, let's read the rest of the notes here. I had a clear job. Okay, she's in a public interview here. She says, the brand is in decline. Now, Budweiser is what's known as a cash cow. Budweiser has a mature consumer who buys the product. It's kind of like Microsoft. Microsoft Windows, people buy the product. It's a cash cow. It's a fucking cash cow. And the problem with cash cows is people can get in there and spend that cash, right? But really, the cash is just for building up. It's like a bank. You fucking just keep collecting money when you have a cash cow. Then eventually, at some point, the brand will go into decline, and then you use that cash to buy other brands or to build other brands, right? Certain brands, that's what they are. They're kind of cash cows. But she says the brand is in decline. Sales were not in decline. Sales were rising every year. This is not really true. If we do not attract young buyers, there will be no future for Bud Light. Her job was to evolve and elevate. Now, this part, I blame whoever hired her. And I want to know who hired her. Who put their stamp on this one? I brought a belief that evolve and elevate means to shift the tone, inclusive. This is a beer that men drink. Inclusive of a who? It's exclusive. The people that are buying it are the people being marketed to. You're including your customer. But now she's going to exclude the customer, and she's going to include a bunch of women that don't use the product, right? Appeals to women and men is the representation is in the heart of evolution. This is her basic belief. Everything about this woman is a belief system. Has nothing to do with her own experience, reality. It's like a religion. It's a belief. And you see this more and more with people today. They believe in something. It has nothing to do with reality. It's like, it depends on who's teaching them, her coach, whatever. Representation is the heart of evolution. So what she means here is you have to hire a bunch of people that don't look like the customer, and then that will evolve the user base. So basically, don't put men in the commercial. Don't use male humor. Use female humor. Use all kinds of pronouns. And then you're going to suddenly, magically, those people are going to buy the beer. And you're going to leave those dusty guys in the background, right? And you can see this. She believes this. She did this, right? With the influencer, right? She brought in this influencer. She thought it was going to bring in a bunch of people like him, her, but it didn't happen. So she was wrong. Her basic belief, representation is the heart of evolution. This is where I blame the company, and I ask Bud Light, if you're listening, the person that hired her, who's the person that put their stamp on there? Did you know that her basic belief system, she was taught, or she believed, is representation is the heart of evolution? Did you understand that she was going to change? She was going to stop marketing to her customers. She was going to start to market to other people, and she was going to hope that that was going to create an evolution in the consumer base. She was going to alienate the people that buy the product every week, pick up a six-pack on the way home from work. She was going to alienate them, hire other people on her team, and in the Super Bowl, and in the marketing, and in the insides of the team. She's going to hire young people who no one believes in, and that's going to magically change the user base. It's such a bad plan. It is unbelievably bad plan, because if she was really, let's say that I was hired as a marketing person to bring in, let's say, the LGBT community, I would not ever believe, if this was my job, I would never believe that you just put them in the ads and that's going to magically bring them in. No. I would spend a lot of time deciding who I want to bring in and who they represent. The person she brought in, the influencer, her main audience, Dylan Mulvaney, is 13-year-old on TikTok. So representation is the heart of evolution. She brought in a person who, A, doesn't reflect most of the users of the product, but B, she was so ill prepared for this job, so poorly chosen, that they didn't even check into the audience of the influencer. The audience are 13-year-olds. You can look it up. 13-year-olds. And they can't even buy beer. I mean, I drank beer when I was 14, so they can drink beer, but I don't think that was... I kind of doubt if that is really what Budweiser is doing, targeting 13-year-olds for future beer products. If that's the truth, and that's possible, that could have been, she might have let the cat out of the bag and ruined the whole company. Because if they're actually doing that, there is definitely some legal questions there. So I ask you, Budweiser, were you doing that? Were you targeting 13-year-olds to buy beer? Is that why you hired her? Is that why you let someone with an audience of 13-year-olds represent your brand in an ad? And a lot of people say, like, the influencer was just one person. It wasn't represented. I just don't believe that. I do not believe that. Okay, so what's next? So if Budweiser is not marketing to 13-year-olds, let's just take that perspective. Again, I'm questioning. But Bud Light, I'm asking you directly. Was this your plan to market to 13? Because if it is, I think that's wrong. I don't think you should do that. 13-year-olds, they're not ready to make that kind of decision. I don't think you should market to them. They might come across your beer, but it's illegal for them to drink it. I don't think that's a good corporate strategy. But let's just say that that wasn't the case. Let's say that the most likely thing is that she was given way too much power. Nobody was watching her. She had no experience with beer. She had no experience at this level of, power. She was absolutely ill-equipped for the situation. Then you got to look at your governance policies, who you're hiring. You don't look at the influencer. That's easy. That's the easy one to do. And it's painless. Just fire all the TikTokers. But what Bud Light needs to do is look in their own company. Who is working there now that shouldn't be working there? Because here's what she said next. It's been a brand of fratty, out-of-touch humor. I would have fired her the second I saw that interview. Because I disagree with that. I think Budweiser humor... Okay, I've lived outside of America so long that I don't really get along. I mean, American humor, especially in ads, doesn't make me laugh. Once in a while, Japanese ads can make me laugh, and once in a while, British ads can make me laugh. But it's very rare that American ads make me laugh because my humor has just kind of changed over the years because I live with international people most of my life, right? So it doesn't usually make me laugh. But I think Bud Light humor, it's... Like they had this one, I remember this one ad where the guy had a Bud, he had a what's it called? Like a beer funnel, right? You know, you funnel the beer. He had a hat that was all plastic, clear plastic. And it was like, they had obviously poured like a 12-pack into the hat. So his head was open. So the plastic went around his head and the beer was basically on top of his head. And there was a hose in there. And then his job was to drink. Oh yeah, he went around his face so he couldn't breathe. And so he had to drink the whole, whatever it was, 12-pack before he could even breathe. And it was just really schlocky. And I thought it was fucking pretty goddamn hilarious. I thought that was fucking funny. Like they're like making fun of their customers, making fun of themselves. But that's a type of, if you saw the ad, it's the type of humor guys love. It's like making fun of themselves. Like just I think, to call that fratty and out of touch, I think they're out of touch. I think she's out of touch. She's out of touch with her customers. Men, most fucking funny comedians are men. There are funny women. I disagree with the guys who say there's never any funny women. There's definitely some funny women. But as a general rule, guys tend to dominate the humor industry and be the funniest. That's just my opinion. And many people agree with that. And that's okay. People have different skills, right? I'm not saying something groundbreaking here. Men tend to be pretty fucking hilarious. And for her to say that it's fratty, the guy was with the drinking hat. Okay, if I remember right, it was like a total country scene. Okay, it was like the guy had like jeans hanging down. Everybody had cowboy hats on. There was like a muddy pickup truck. He's standing there in the dirt and he's drinking this thing and he's making he's making fun of himself. And that's not fratty. Fratty, if you look at the fratty image is like USC, BMW, privileged family, skull and bones, George Bush, money, privilege. That's if you want to talk about fratty, okay, what society thinks of as fratty. Now, I was in a fraternity, so I don't agree with that. But if you talk about fratty, what does that mean in people's minds? It doesn't mean country guys with shotguns. That's not a fratty guy. She's absolutely wrong on this. And this is her analysis of their humor. I mean, this is like, she's so fucking retarded. Like, it is not a fratty at all type thing. It was like a homeboy country, fucking down south, man. Southern flag, getting out of the fucking mud, horses running around. I mean, that was what was going on. And it wasn't out of touch at all. It was actually fucking pretty funny. I think Bud Light humor was some of the best humor. Some of that stuff was pretty fucking funny, actually. I don't think it was out of touch. It was out of touch with the LGBT community because it's a totally different audience, right? You need a totally different take on things. But it was pretty darn in touch with the audience. I thought it was, I don't know about you, but I thought it was pretty funny. I don't drink anymore, so I wasn't their audience, but I appreciated Bud Light humor. That's pretty fucking funny. So here she talks about the Super Bowl. I cast an incredible female choreographer. She's the beating heart. She says she cast a female choreographer and her husband. Now, if I remember right, her husband was more famous than her. He's there, but she is the focus. We chose a female protagonist for the Super fucking Bowl. I've been hating Super Bowl commercials for years. Where's the fucking titties? Where are the asses? We're talking the Super Bowl here. Jesus, it's so sad what's happened in the Super Bowl. And like, at least there was one place men could be men. And that was that American men could be men. That was the Super Bowl. Not any longer, man. Go back and watch what she did. Oh my God. And people like her. It is so sad. And I can't believe the NFL puts up with it. I blame the NFL. Fucking pussies. What a bunch of fucking pussies. I'm serious. You fucking morons. What is wrong with you? It's the Super Bowl, you fucking idiots. Right? I'm not going to pretend there isn't much to do from a representational, again, these are quotes from the video, representational perspective. So, representational perspective. Her whole mindset is that putting the right color people in ads, it's basically what the Benetton ads were of the 90s. If you put the right pictures in there, this was early kind of woke marketing. It's gone way past this. It's gotten much more sophisticated. But the most dumbest, back then it wasn't dumb, it was new. But their idea was, hey, we'll put in a bunch of different Benetton ad, right? You put in all these different colored people, have them holding hands, you see the different skin tones, and then that was enough to reach out to people. And it worked in the 80s and 90s. But that's no longer the case. It's gotten much more sophisticated. This woman is still stuck. She doesn't even know marketing for woke. She doesn't even understand, it's gotten so far past that, where if you just put in these colored people, they're going to be to me, it's like putting it's so dumb. Her mindset is it's like hiring a fucking guy whooping and hollering, have feathers coming out of his hat and saying, talking about, the elders. And then she's like, I'm giving representation to Indians. They never wanted to be represented that way in the first place. Representative perspective, what the fuck? We're talking old mindsets here. It's not about representing their skin color or their tribe. It's about fucking what do people want? Getting deep into what they need and what they want, right? This person was so inept. She was so inept at her job. It's beyond belief. It really is. And the fact that Budweiser isn't getting into the details here, because they don't know what to do, because Budweiser is so stupid. And I mean this. The president of Budweiser is so stupid. All he can talk about is the reaction, and then people can talk about the influencer. That is not the problem. Okay, now let's get into her real agenda. Women are my happiness. She says, I struggle with imposter syndrome. You know what my sponsor in AA would have told her? You know what he told me? I said, you know what? His name was Scott. I said, Scott, I feel guilty about this. And he goes, you know what? The reason why you feel guilty is because you're probably fucking guilty. And it blew my mind because I was never told stuff that directly. I was 20, at the time I was 22. In California, you were coddled. You were never told you were wrong. He's like, well, you probably feel guilty because you're fucking guilty. You probably did something wrong you need to correct. That's why you feel guilty. Don't assume if you feel guilty, don't assume it's not accurate. You're probably guilty because you did something fucking wrong. You got to make amends for it, right? And you got to change. End of story. There's the rare situation where you feel guilty, but you're actually not guilty. But usually when you feel tired, it's because you're tired. If you feel guilty, it's because you're guilty, right? But we never look at the obvious. She feels like an imposter. You know why? She doesn't know anything about beer. She's never been a marketing director at this level. She doesn't know the customer. She is being listened to by all these men in the boardroom who've been at the company, presumably for decades, and she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. So she feels like an imposter. That's the only honest thing she said. She is an imposter, and she struggles with it, right? I fake it all the time, she said. And she used as a argument is that everyone, her coach said everyone is faking it all the time. She said, I fake it all the time. Everyone is faking it all the time. Everybody doesn't know what they're talking about all the time. She said that. That's her basic belief. She said, I fake it all the time. But don't worry about that. Everyone is faking it all the time. Everyone doesn't know what they're talking about all the time. Exact quote. Is that true? Do the men who've worked at Budweiser for decades probably drink a fucking 6-pack of Bud or a 12-pack at night every day after work? Do they not know what they're talking about all the time? Is that really true? It's hard to have confidence in a room full of men. This is where she got confused. This woman. She got confused because it wasn't a room full of men. It was a room full of beer drinkers in a company, the world's largest beer company, with 80% male customers, people who've been there for decades, who've been through many marketing campaigns, who have a lot of experience. And here she is, no beer experience, no experience at that level, no experience with marketing to these customers, no knowledge of these customers. No wonder. Again, my sponsor, you feel guilty? Probably because you're guilty. The reason why she didn't have confidence is because she doesn't know this business. She shouldn't be there, right? She would have more confidence. This is where I disagree with the body language girl. I think she could have confidence if she was marketing in the South to women in the South. I think she would know very well what is wanted by women in the South. And she would have confidence. And she would tell people that didn't know. Let's say a man came in very young and he's like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. She'd be like, listen, honey, I was grown in the South. Okay, I know what the fuck's going on here. People in the South don't do that. They don't live like that. She would take them apart. And she would have confidence in it. It's because, not because she's a useless human being, it's because she's in the wrong business. She doesn't belong here. She knows it. That's why she doesn't have confidence. That's why she feels like an imposter. But if she was talking about something she knew, she probably would, right? I have to come back time and time again to the belief that we can change who we are. This is her fundamental belief. Again, this is like a religion. We can change who we are. You know what? That's perfect. I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel like an imposter. I don't know my business. And I can change who I am. I can become whoever I want to be. Same exact big thunder. Same exact mindset of the head of security at Equifax. I can learn on the job. That's the amazing thing about security. You know what killed Equifax at the heart of it? It wasn't anything complicated. It was Windows computers that were not being updated. And that's how the leak happened. The hackers got in. It was nothing complicated. It was simply knowing that you need to have your Windows updated. And she didn't know that. The head of security was not aware that would be a vulnerability. It's because she didn't know her business. She studied social science, the head of security for Equifax. And it's the same thing here. This is why women are not comfortable. And women are teaching. She's teaching women, okay? This woman is teaching women. That's what she does. That, hey, everybody feels like an imposter. Everybody doesn't know anything. Nobody, that guy across the room, he doesn't know anything either. Just have confidence in yourself. No. What she should be telling them is, I am extremely grateful. I was put in charge of a business that I was not ready for. I didn't understand. But luckily, men were generous enough to give me the opportunity. And I thank them till the day I leave this company. And I listened to them. And I told them, I don't know why men buy this brand. I need to learn. Teach me. I want to be a success in your company. I want to help you to succeed. I don't have the, you know what I mean? You hired me, but I really don't know what I'm doing. But I'm willing to learn, and you know what I mean? I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to take the bull. I'm not going to be a know-it-all. I'm not going to think I know more than you. I'm not going to think this is male-dominated when it actually males buy the product. I'm not going to look down on you. I'm not going to not hire men and be a man hater. I'm going to be, what is it? I'm going to be my right size. I'm going to be my right size as a human. I know what I know and I know what I don't know. Realistic. By the way, let's get some other facts here. She mentioned safe space 5 times. I counted in the interview. In 54 minutes. Every 10 minutes, safe space. So when she got skin cancer, is another. The doctors were telling her, and the people around her, they were giving her a plan, a strategy. You know what she said? I don't need a plan right now. I need comfort. She told the doctors, guys, I just need you to sit in this really dark, this is exactly her words, in this really dark hole and comfort me. So the men were telling the doctors how to overcome what she needed to do to get rid of melanoma before it became the next stage. But she said, I don't need a plan. I don't need anything, surgery, nothing. I just need you to comfort me for now. Oh, God. Okay. Just another side note. That podcast is, what they do is they allow you to pick the space that you want to be interviewed in. And she picked that space. Her kids' drawings in the background. Her son, she said her son drew the rainbow. He loves rainbows. What else does rainbow connotate today? What else? Is there a chance that he just likes rainbows out of nowhere? It's possible. But you know what? Most boys, when I was asked what represents you, I usually drew a dollar bill. I got kicked out of church for that summer class because I drew a dollar bill. And I knew it was going to piss him off. I did it because I was pissed off. Or a lot of my friends would draw, like a gun or something, right? Or a car, or a fireman, something like that, right? That's what boys usually draw, stuff like that. Her son draws rainbows. Now, I'm not saying that he could not, naturally have chosen rainbows of all the things. But what are the fucking odds? I mean, as a boy myself, in the past, I didn't. Rainbows were like, they were like unicorns, man. My sister was into rainbows. I had never fucking drew a rainbow in my entire life, right? But her son, that's his thing, rainbows. I wonder if he's being influenced by the adults around him. I just wonder. So she had a project, 100 Women, 100 Days. This is while she's working. Same as Sheryl Sandberg. She was working in a corporation, leaving at 5:30, despite the fact that everybody in the company worked 24 hours a day practically. Take the company's money, use it for her own coaches, take the money, and then use that money, use the hiring process to hire who she wanted, basically to use the company for her own agenda. That's basically what we're seeing now. Women getting hired, roles are not equipped for, and they're basically blatantly using the company's resources to build their own, like Sheryl Sandberg did, her own nonprofit that she can work at when she leaves. So basically, use her power to get speaking engagements, the power of her position, first head of marketing, first head of whatever Sheryl had. Use the company that a man built, the power that a man created, the trust that a group of men, programmers in Silicon Valley, all men, or beer drinkers and beer makers, all men, and again, mostly, just like most women are consumers of bras, right? We know that there are men who wear bras, but it's not that common. I've never worn one. None of my friends, you know what I mean? It's like, generally you could say that women buy bras, women wear bras. Same thing with beer. Same thing with Silicon Valley companies. They all started with all guys. It was one of the big things once they got famous and rich, right? It's the thing that made them famous, made them rich, but then they cut them down later. They force in people who have no experience. They ruin the company over time and over again, and they use the company as a launching pad for their own business. I don't think this woman was liking to help women. I think she was looking at Sheryl Sandberg and realized she wanted to have more power, her own company. Nobody to tell her what to do. This is what I think was going on. Obviously, no way to prove it, but I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked for other people. I know what it's like to work at a company, save money, and start my own thing. And I know that feeling. And there's no fucking doubt about it. This woman, now the difference was I was making the company money as a headhunter while I was planning to have my own company in the future. Right? And I was open about it too. What we're seeing now is women getting the peak of power, no one watching them, ruining the companies, building their own businesses, and leaving like nothing happened. And there's no real consequences for this woman. Alissa, she's out there right now. She's got children. She's at home. She's probably happy. She's probably thinking like, God, I'm glad. She got paid off. She got paid for her time. She now is, she can spin the narrative however she wants, right? And sounds like she's starting a nonprofit. It's about connecting with women. She found no joy in her family, or she said that. It's just like she coached women. She quit her corporate. Okay, here's another one. Okay, here we go. So she coached 100 women in 100 days. Who is she coaching? Everybody she mentioned was like her, was a type A, powerful, in a man's world, as James Brown would have said. Women that were working as executives in a man's world. And so people like her, which makes sense. That's the type of people she would coach, right? So she gave a couple examples. How she helped these women, how she coached these women. So there was a woman who came to her. She was a corporate lawyer. She coached her to quit. And then now she's an anti-hate activist. Okay, so society puts a lot of money into people that rise to the top. And when they quit, I'm not saying you have a responsibility to society, but there is a point when, you were trusted to do this thing. You went through school. One of the biggest problems in Japan, and I know this is absolutely a fact, and it's a difficult thing, is that women that become doctors, there was a big scandal about this. Women that become doctors are only doctors for like a few years, and then they quit to raise a family. And that the hospitals were not having enough doctors because this medical schools can only train so many people. And before it was all men, and then there was never a shortage of doctors. But now they're taking, a lot of women now, and the women are basically tend to be very in demand, and they get married. Women are not getting married in general, but doctors are very in demand as wives. And so women don't last very long as doctors. They get 12 years of schooling, and then they quit after a few years to be mothers. Now that's great, but society needs doctors. So it was really a difficult problem for Japan because they don't want to discriminate against women, obviously, but same time as they can't afford to have hospitals without doctors. And we need people that are doctors, but you can't force someone who studies medicine to continue being a doctor. So the best bet is to allow men into the medical schools. But that's not acceptable today. And I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying these are the type of conundrums that we have. No one wants to talk about it. There's no fucking doctors now. Because the women, this is a true trend. Women don't stay in the medical profession very long in Japan. What do you fucking do? It's like an impossible situation. So no one can face up to these things. So guess what? There's not enough fucking doctors. So you wait. So she coached a woman to quit her corporate job. She coached another woman to become an anti-hate activist. It could be argued that she hates men. You know what I mean? Like, there is an argument. I'm not saying she does, but you could make an argument based on putting the pieces together. All her focus is on women. She only talks about, only promotes women, only hires women. All of her work is only with women. She didn't work with 99 women and one man in 100 days. It was 100 women in 100 days. Yet she is the one coaching people to quit their job to be an anti-hate. Guess who they hate? Guess what that's all about. She coached another woman who worked at a hedge fund. And she worked with Alissa. Yeah, she quit. Same thing. Sorry, these are bad notes. The woman was working at a hedge fund, and she coached her into quitting, and she became a climate change activist. So what is in common here? Activist, hate activist, they become two things. Everybody she coaches is type A successful, rose up through the ranks in a successful corporation. In the man's world, as James Ron, it's a man's world. You know, I got to put on this one fucking, there's a street performer did Man's World. It's so fucking awesome. I heard last night. I'll put this in the link, I'll find it. It's so good. But she convinces people, her coaching is taking people that are highly trained and invested in by corporations and funds. She talks them into quitting and doing things they like to do. Being activists. Women love this. Is this a positive trend? Is this good? And truth be told, women don't really want to work in companies. Once they get there, women are generally pretty miserable. There's going to be the rare exception. They love it. But in general, look at the interviews of women, right? They want to be mothers. They want to, that's why this is so attractive. She's finding disgruntled, successful corporate drones and telling them that they can live their purpose. Now, I would argue this might not be a great career move for these women. She might be ruining their career, I would argue, because she coaches them to quit. The better way to go is do it the way she's doing it. And the way Sheryl Sandberg says, milk your company dry for all the resources. Use that money to build your business. Right? She doesn't sound like she's giving away, like rob the company blind, leave it in the burning rubble, and then be the star with your own company when you come out the other side. Walk out of the wreckage, right, that you created. Very powerful indeed. Okay, she helps women make hard decisions, make the tough choices. Everybody she uses as an example is somebody who quit. Okay, and basically, let's end on this. I'm not the sweet Southern girl anymore. Conflict doesn't scare me anymore. Well, she got what she wanted, and I just ask you, are we better off for this? Budweiser, are you better off? Do we need to start rethinking the way we're doing things? And I'm not saying go back to anything. I mean, there's a lot of subtlety here. I have nothing against, and I've said this many times, a woman who is a true corporate warrior type. I love those chicks. And same with a Madame Curie, like a real scientist or a mathematician. Somebody who's really good at what they do. And she's female, I fucking totally respect that. Me, Ronin, Paul, I love that. And I always have. It's because I appreciate talent. I appreciate genius. I don't like fake stuff. I don't like lies. I don't like imposters. And that's what we're hiring now. And we're getting the benefit of hiring these imposters. We're seeing the results. We're starting to see the results. Do we want to continue down this road? Should corporate America reevaluate and change the goalposts a little bit? I'm not saying go back. I'm saying like real heartfelt, gut-wrenching changes to the system, because it's not working, in my opinion. And it's scary. These people are using you, using what you built for their own benefit. And you talk about oranges and grapes, they're graping your company and leaving. And I'll end on this. She says conflict doesn't scare me anymore. I'm not a sweet girl anymore. I personally think that she does not regret any of this. I think, this is my assumption from what I've studied about her, don't think she likes the customers of Bud Light. I don't think she never even mentioned any names of all the people who hired her, helped her out, trained her, people she worked with. Never mentioned one of them. Why would you do that? Most people, they thank the people that helped them get to the top. If you watch any Golden Globes award, I appreciate the people that believed in me, the person that gave me my first job. Nope. She doesn't respect. She doesn't like the people that work at Budweiser. She doesn't like the people that buy Budweiser. She doesn't care that Budweiser is going to have financial problems, or if they do. So you can't rely on guilt. You can't rely on humanness. Honestly, you're dealing with an imposter who cold-blooded, and again, I'm not talking about her. I'm saying this is a trend. You have to be aware of this. It's up to your decision whether she fits this mold. But I see more and more women taking advantage of corporate policies and leaving burning wrecks and not caring. Not a concern in the fucking world coming out the other side. Is that what we're dealing with here? Is that what we want? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed making it, and I hope that some of my insights have been valuable. Thank you.